Hello, everyone. Welcome to our REI webinar for today. Thank you for joining us. Our webinar today is Motivational Interviewing, an approach that makes a real economic impact. My name is Katie Metz. I am the Manager of Financial Empowerment and Inclusion with the National Disability Institute, and I welcome each of you here today. I want to give a special thank you to our sponsor, Bank of America. A lot of the work that we do would not be possible without them. They've been a long-term supporter of National Disability Institute, and we greatly appreciate the work and the commitment they have to ensuring economic empowerment for persons with disabilities around the country. Right before we get started, I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Nakia, who is going to give us a few housekeeping tips. Nakia?
Thanks, Katie, and good afternoon, everyone. The audio for today's webinar is being broadcast through your computer. Please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. You can control the audio broadcast via the audio broadcast panel, which you see here. If you accidentally close this panel or if the sound stops, you can reopen the audio broadcast panel by going to the Communicate menu at the top of your screen and choosing Audio Broadcast. If you do not have sound capabilities on your computer, or if you prefer to listen to the webinar by phone, you can dial the toll or toll-free number you see here, as well as enter the meeting code. Please note that you do not need to enter an attendee ID. I'll leave this on screen for just a few more seconds in case anyone needs it. Real-time captioning is provided during this webinar. The captions can be found in the Media Viewer panel, which appears in the lower right corner of the webinar platform. If you do not see the Media Viewer panel, you may need to open it by selecting the Media Viewer button, which should appear in the upper right-hand corner of the webinar platform. If you would like to make the Media Viewer panel larger, you can do so by minimizing some of the other panels like chat or Q&A. And conversely, if you don't need the captions, you can go ahead and minimize that Media Viewer panel. I will also paste in the link to the captions in case you want to view them in an external web browser window. We will have time for questions at the end of the webinar. Please use the Q&A box to submit your questions, and we will direct those to our speaker. You may also ask questions via email if you are not logged into the web portion. If you're only using the phone, you can email those questions to Katie at kmetz, M-E-T-Z, at ndi-inc.org. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and that the materials will be placed on the NDI website. Finally, if you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to send a message to NDI admin, or you may also email me directly at nmatthews@ndi-inc.org. And I'm going to turn it back over to Katie.
Thank you so much, Nakia. All right, now that we hopefully have everyone squared away, technical difficulties aside, and again, as Nakia said, if you have any questions or need anything, please feel free to send us a chat or an email, and we'll get you worked out. So if you're not familiar, National Disability Institute, our mission is, as you see, to drive social impact to build a better economic future for people with disabilities and their families. One way we do that is through our Real Economic Impact Network, which is an alliance of organizations and individuals such as yourselves dedicated to advancing the economic empowerment of people with disabilities. It consists of more than 4,500 members located throughout the United States, including nonprofits, community tax coalitions, asset development organizations, financial education initiatives, corporations, private sector businesses, federal, state, local governments and agencies, and of course, individuals and families with disabilities themselves. We all partner to join forces and embrace, promote, and pursue access to an inclusion of people with disabilities throughout the economic mainstream. If you want to learn more about the REI network, please feel free to contact us at our website, realeconomicimpact.org, and as you can see, /REI-network. Today, we're going to learn how motivational interviewing makes a real economic impact to help move individuals towards financial stability. Motivational interviewing is goal-directed and client-centered counseling style that allows clients to explore positive behavioral change. This method assists in facilitating the conversation with the client that motivates the client to create positive change. Motivational interviewing is asking open-ended questions, providing assistance, positive reinforcement, and affirmations. It takes a non-judgmental approach to a client situation. This webinar will define motivational interviewing, provide an overview of how this technique works, and tips on how to use this approach with clients to help them achieve financial stability. Our presenter today is Sue Rogan, who we are very happy to have. Sue is the Director of Financial Education at Maryland's CASH, Creating Assets, Saving, and Hope campaign. She's been a longtime friend of National Disability Institute, and her organization is a partner of the Real Economic Impact Network. She has more than 20 years experience in training, communications, and outreach on consumer protection topics. We thank her for being here today, and we look forward to hearing all the information that you have for us, Sue. So with that, I will turn it over to you, and we look forward to hearing about motivational interviewing. Sue.
Thanks, Katie. I appreciate the introduction, and I'm really excited to be part of our conversation today and what I hope will be a fun and informational conversation around motivational interviewing. Just a quick background, Maryland CASH, as Katie said, stands for Creating Assets, Savings, and Hope. My favorite part of our name is Hope, and we promote programs, products, and policies that increase the financial security of low to moderate income individuals across the state of Maryland. We do that in three kind of areas of work. One is advocacy, so our director, Robin McKinney, spends a lot of time with elected officials to educate them with the needs of the people that we are serving. We also have a network or a partnership of 40 organizations across Maryland to provide VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, I'm sure many of you are familiar with, but it's a free tax preparation services for those families who earn under $53,000 a year. We also provide financial education classes and coaching services and work to build the capacity of our partners by providing training, technical assistance, funding with them. We also pilot different programs, and one I just wanted to highlight quickly is that we are a part of Maryland Promise, which stands for Promoting the Readiness of Minors in Supplemental Security Income, which is one of 6 states across the U.S. to receive funding from the U.S. Department of Education to develop, implement, and evaluate a service model that promotes positive outcomes for children and their families who receive supplemental security income. So we're really excited to be part of that program, and some of the examples about motivational interviewing that we're going to talk about today do come from this program. So just so quickly to reiterate our learning objectives for the conversation today is to define motivational interviewing, understand what is the impact of it, does it really work, how does it work, learn the process and skills for using this technique, and identify examples of questions that help engage and motivate clients to change. So just to kind of set the framework between typical case management and between motivating. So traditional case management model is sort of assessing what's going on with our clients, our participants, maybe crisis assistance, doing some counseling, some advising, kind of really giving very direct action. You know, take this step, do this step. Whereas coaching or this motivating model is going to be where you're going to be partnering and supporting the client or participants and really building their confidence to find, develop, and implement their own goals. And each have their own really role in working with the people that we're working with. And I'm not saying that one is necessarily any better than the other. What I'm saying is that there are different appropriate times to use them. I'll give you a quick example for a Promise participant that we were working with who had experienced difficult trauma and severe identity theft. She was in a very difficult situation, a very delicate kind of mental health balance. She was exhibiting signs of depression. She wasn't eating well. She wasn't maintaining her personal care. And at that point, really the coaching or motivational interviewing wasn't an appropriate step with her. It was really directing and counseling to get her the help that she needed. So that's just kind of an example, and sometimes that we may need to choose which technique that we're going to use. But I'm really excited to talk about how motivational interviewing can help us work with our clients. So let's define it just a little bit. This is a quote that comes from the clinical psychologist Miller and Rolnick, who created this style and technique of working with clients. Motivational interviewing is a way of being with a client. not just a set of techniques for doing counseling. So if you can see this graphic here, this is two people who are talking. One is saying, I'm willing to make some changes in my lifestyle as long as I don't have to do anything different. So motivational interviewing, as Katie was kind of introducing, is a non-confrontational, a non-judgmental, an empathetic style of working with our clients. It's a research-based method. It's successful with different populations, whether they're high risk or, frankly, family members. It is successful in even brief sessions, and non-clinicians, non-specialists, non-trained coaches can learn and use these techniques. So why does it work? So this quote is from Blaise Pascal: people are usually better persuaded by the reasons which they have themselves discovered than by those which have come into the minds of others. So the impact and the research-based evidence that we were talking about is that research has shown that motivational interviewing is very positive when it's used with, originally it was developed with treating substance abuse, in a sense in treating chronic illness, childhood obesity, and it's really shown a positive impact in financial coaching and in motivational solution style for financial well-being. This is a report here, a picture of financial coaching leads to long-term financial stability, and that is available on the website that you can take a look at, or we can send links out. So it really has been shown to be a proven technique and intervention method. So what are some skills and tools that you will learn that we will be demoing and talking about in this conversation? You mentioned the open-ended question, the ability to provide affirmation and support to the person that you're working with, capacity for reflective listening, and that sometimes can be very challenging as humans. We tend to hear things and want to fix them quickly, but if we can take a step back and really practice this reflective listening, we can get to a better place for the people that we're working with. And then the ability to periodically provide summary statements to the client as to where they're going along the path that they're working on. So the process for motivational interviewing, there are 4 main steps that you work through. The first one is engaging. You're talking about the issue, your relationship building, making sure the person can be able to trust and work with you, focusing on what is the habit or behavior to change, evoking is kind of the confidence and the risks for change, and then planning. How are we going to actually make those practical steps to implement? So we're going to go through each one of them. So in engaging, the counselor, the coach, whoever it is that you're working, you're a partner with the person that you're working with. You're not, again, directing or telling someone to do, you're working together. The participant or client should really feel like you understand and you hear what it is that you're saying, and we're creating a safe atmosphere to explore all the alternatives. So that, again, this is very self-directed. They make the choice that's best for themselves. And then, again, the skillful reflective listening is really critical and fundamental to this piece, along with all of them, but really to this piece in engaging. So some of the questions to think about is, what's been happening since we last met? You know, what have you been doing? What's one thing that you're proud of? I start every coaching session with what's one thing that you're proud of that's happened since we last spoke? What have you tried before? So one example of working through this particular stage in motivational interviewing was a person I was coaching who had been long-term unemployed. She's been unemployed about 18 months, and we've been working together first, second time as we're getting to know each other. So we were really working on engaging so that she could know that I'm listening to her, I understand what she's saying, I'm really going to be there to support her. And we went through a lot of these questions, and it was really, very, very fruitful conversation. But I will warn you that sometimes as you really get involved in working with people, it can get easy to spend a lot of time on this particular stage in the process. And I looked down at my watch and realized that we had been engaging for over 30 minutes, and we only had an hour to work together. So it was a good engagement and a good way for us to be working together, but I told her that we needed to move on and be able to get to the step that she wanted to talk about. So it's an important step to not skip in this process, but it's also important to make sure that you're keeping an eye on, what your time frame is. So then we had to move on to focusing. The focusing was defining the goal and the behavior change that the person has come to and seeking help to achieve. Encouraging short-term, achievable goal setting. And think about starting small. Along with that, is it emotional for the participant? Is this something that they really, really want to achieve? Is it something that they're going to wake up and think about on a daily basis? So some questions to focus on would be, what would you like to work on? Why is this important to you? Maybe even who within your family or your friends or your networks or your coworkers really believe that you can do this and can support you. And then what are some of your other options? So you're trying to sort of narrow the conversation a little bit here in order to move on to the next steps. And so another example was a promised participant who came and they had 6 goals that they wanted to work on. They were very excited about this process to work with us, very motivated about wanting to make some change and to really increase their financial stability, but they had 6 goals. I'll tell you these goals. There was a new house, making a will, going back to school, taking a vacation, buying a new car, and creating emergency savings. As you might imagine, this is a pretty lofty amount of goals to try to achieve. And what we've found in the past when using different techniques, if people try to achieve all of these goals all at one time, something may not happen on one of them that would kind of set them maybe into a spiral of lack of confidence and being like, I can't achieve any of these. So through using these techniques to focusing on the next ones that we're going to talk about, we kind of really had to figure out how to narrow this down to something that might be small enough to be achieved relatively shortly in order to be able to get the confidence and the momentum and the motivation going for working on others. So the next step is evoking. So this is discussing the client's feelings and their experiences and really realizing that maybe the client isn't actually ready to change and we may need to do a little more discussion, figure out where they are in the change cycle and if they're really ready to do these kind of goals that we're going to be talking about next. Going through the benefits and the barriers to change. Identifying what are their reasons for really wanting to make this change and for making the goal. And really exploring the client, looking at what is their own motivation. So we can see what this graphic is. This is a lot of listening and a lot of questions. Before we get into some of the other questions and tools, we need to take a step to kind of talk about when you're doing this step with evoking, to really recognize that you're going to be working potentially, probably, with some ambivalence on the part of the person that you're working with. So there may be some kind of verbal, yes, I am dying to, whatever this was, create a will, buy a new house, whatever it is, but recognizing that they haven't been able to be successful so far with this, and maybe part of that is because they have some ambivalence about this behavior. So making sure that we let people know that we're working with that having some kind of reservations or ambivalence is normal, you know, and it's acceptable, we understand it, and that being attached to that behavior, whatever it might be, is part of this ambivalence. If it were easy, everybody would be doing all this change on their own. It's not necessarily easy. It absolutely will be done, but knowing that ambivalence is basically the unresolved conflict between the pros and cons of that behavior, and it leads to continuing doing that behavior, so the continued engagement of that behavior. How many times have any of us said, I really need to work out more? I'm going to work out 5 days a week. And how many of us get always to do it 5 days a week right off the bat, just, you know, without any kind of help or any kind of fitness buddy? So we know that, you know, the change and the internal mechanism to change does involve ambivalence, and there are ways to work with the person around this. So knowing that persistent ambivalence is the main or the principal impediment to that change. So with working with people, we can say, on the one hand, you're saying you want to do X, but on the other hand, you're feeling this. So kind of, again, that reflective listening and getting back to them of what they're thinking and what they've been saying to you. So part of you wants to do this, but another part of you wants to do whatever. So there was another participant in our coaching program that was a mom of 3 children living in a transitional housing program, and she was explaining to our participants in classes and coaching that she really recognized she was spending a lot of money on eating out. And she really wanted to change that because she wanted to spend it in a different method. She had another goal she wanted to work on. And so it was really examining, you say you want to spend less money going out. On the other hand, you're saying, well, we're tired, we're busy, it's Friday night, the kids need a treat. So kind of exploring why she's going, the different mechanisms of what she's thinking, helping her explore to determine if this is something she really, truly wants to focus on and make a goal. So some tools to be able to explore the ambivalence or the different things that the clients are feeling about this particular behavior they're saying they want to change is by using this how important ruler. So from a scale between 1 and 10, or 0 and 10, with 0 being not at all important and 10 being extremely important, how important is this change? And asking them to literally, write down what number and then talk about it. So why is that not lower? Why is it not higher? Why did you pick that number? That can really generate some very fruitful discussion to determine whether or not this person really wants to focus on this one, or if, in the participant that I had that had 6 goals, should we go back and look at another one? Shall we evaluate each one of these to see which one is the one we're going to first focus on? And another tool that many of you may have seen is the Wheel of Money or Life. We use it in our curriculum and our coaching and counseling as a Wheel of Money, where there are different pies of people's financial health. So budgeting, credit, savings, debt, banking, retirement. You can see all the different categories here. So at the very center of the wheel, or inside of the circles, represents a 0, which means they're not very happy with that particular part of their financial life. It goes all the way out to the outer side of the circle, where it's a 10, where the person's feeling pretty comfortable, very comfortable with that part of their financial life. So having people that you work with take a look at this and put a dot in each one of these pies and say, okay, so maybe for retirement, I'm feeling like it's a 4. Maybe with budgeting, I feel like maybe I'm a 7. Maybe with credit, maybe it's a 2. Whatever it might be, have them choose a number between the 0 and the 10 for each one of those pies, and then take the time to talk about that. Pick the one that they felt the less happy about and say, is this one, does this relate to one of the goals that we've talked about so far and something that you might like to work on and to focus some kind of behavior change around? So, for example, the participant that we were working with that had the 6 goals filled this out, and we've talked about all the different things that she wanted to accomplish and to work on, and she realized that she had actually put a 0 in the savings category and higher-ish numbers than some of the others, and so was able to kind of focus and say, okay, maybe this is the one that I really want to focus on, and I'm willing to say, here is where I want to have some behavior change and I want to move on. So these are just 2 different tools that you can use with participants during that evoking stage of motivational interviewing to determine what it is that's going to help them with ambivalence or with focusing too. So other factors in the evoking stage is to build confidence. What are exercises that you can incorporate with the person that you're working with to build their confidence? Exploring a time with them when they felt they were successful in whatever aspects of their life. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's not. Where was something that they felt successful? And you can take a look at it and help them identify that while they may have been good at whatever it is, being a mom or in sports or in school, translate that skill and that ability into the work that you're doing with them. Help them see that it isn't just, oh, I was a good student in school. Well, that also means perhaps you are a very curious person and you are very interested and you like to learn, or whatever that is. Translate that into the goal and the work that you're doing with them, and expressing your own faith in them that they are able to achieve whatever of those goals that they set. That helps them kind of work up the confidence that they have in themselves. So you can see in the blue box the ability to do something. Actually, it didn't come out. Above that says the confidence in the ability to do something greatly affects whether or not it is tried, how much effort goes into it, and how long you will persist with it. So sorry I didn't exactly work out there on the slide, but basically the point is people who are more confident are much more likely to try something, put more effort and time into it, and persist longer at it. Some of the questions that can be used during this stage is, you say you can't solve this problem, but you've solved others in the past. What's different? So exploring that. And what have you tried so far? So again, just trying to work to see that this can be done. It's absolutely, you can work on this, we can make it, and it's going to be great. All right, so the next step in motivational interviewing is the planning. And then this is where we really, I think, come into play to be able to help people see that sometimes making that goal of, well, gee, I'm going to start saving, and that's it. I'm going to start saving. That it needs a little more detail, it needs a little more description, and actually to be successful, we need to break it down into some steps. So actually defining what this goal is, what are the first steps that we're going to take, and many of you may have already been aware of the SMART goal planning technique, which is another acronym that stands for making the goal specific, making it measurable, making it attainable, and the R can either be realistic or relevant, and then T for timely. So that's kind of a framework that we've had in our field for quite some time to help people set down the goals and realize, is this something that is realistic? For example, the participant who wanted to buy a house within a few months. That may not have been a realistic goal for that particular person. So going through that framework helps them to figure out, oh, well, maybe I should look at something else, maybe I should plan this out a little further, you know, to kind of making it so that it is actually something that is going to be worked on and something that they can achieve. So there's some other things I think we need to add to the SMART goal framework, which is it emotional? Is it something that the person is really passionate about achieving? That makes such a difference, obviously, in their confidence and their commitment to actually achieve that goal. So making sure this is something that they're really excited about, and also making sure it's something visual. So something that is, we had one participant who made a sign for the back of her door in her apartment as she left, and it was a picture of her goal. So every day when she left, she saw that goal, and it just kind of reframed her every morning, this is what I'm working toward. Other people have written their goal on like a sticky and put it on their debit card. So when they're out there and they might be tempted to shop and do something that wasn't in their plan, they're actually seeing the goal. Others have used pictures on their smartphone. Whatever method it might be, it's just really helpful to encourage the people that we're working with to make it visual so that it's always in the front of their mind, this is what I'm working towards. And so some of the questions to think about are, what are the first 3 steps to achieve this goal? And then what might be some obstacles? And what can you do when you can hit these obstacles? Because as you can imagine, setting a financial goal and then reaching a financial goal is, generally speaking, I would say 99% of the time, not a direct straight line. It's a little bit of a cha-cha, where it's a little bit forward, a little bit backwards, a little bit sideways. So understanding that that's going to happen as you're planning and framing the goal, you can help the person really prepare for this and get ready for what might happen. So if this happens, I already said what I was going to do. I don't have to think about it and be in a moment of indecision. I already know what my plan is going to be. For example, the participant they were working with who mentioned that she wanted to stop spending money eating out as much. She wanted to save this for other goals. She created some steps, which was working on getting some nutrition planning, getting some recipes, getting some friends together to cook together on the weekend. So she kind of set her first steps and her first goals. And then she said, well, you know what I need to do is think about when Friday night comes and we're exhausted from the week and the kids are saying, well, is it Friday night pizza night? What am I going to do then? So what she did in conjunction with the whole group together is she created a family box. It was a savings box. It was literally a shoebox, cut a hole in the center, decorated it. The whole family got into decorating it. And then when Friday came, it was a couple of weeks before the actual Friday that they got tempted to do this came up. For the first couple of weeks, they were motivated. I got this, we're not going out. Third or fourth week came up, said, you know what? Really tired, really want to go out and get something to eat, really don't want to do this saving thing anymore. Then they remembered the savings box, said, okay, well, we're not going to spend on pizza for $10 on Friday. We're going to put it in this box, and this box we're going to allow ourselves to maybe save for vacation or a different goal. So they set up some steps to take when they knew, when their their motivation might get a little weak and they might be tempted to do something they actually didn't want to do. They set up something to get ready for that. So for example, with this one, I will go to the gym 3 times this week. That's my goal that I'm setting. And then asking people that you're working with, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you can do this? For example, I'm going to say 7. So what could make this difficult to do? So now we're sort of planning for our obstacles and making sure that we can get things in place. And so they would say, I'm so busy, I'm tired after work, I just really don't feel like going. What can I do? So I can go on my lunch 2 days, or I can go on a weekend, or maybe I go in the morning, whatever it is, setting those steps in place that we were talking about, because something will happen to get in the way, and we want to make sure that people are ready for it and continuing their confidence building versus feeling like, I didn't go, I really messed up, this isn't working out, I'm done, I just give up. So try and make sure that we're giving them those skills and the opportunity for planning for anything that may come up to really help kind of success and the achievement of the goals that they're setting. So planning and beyond, now that we've talked with our participants, we've gotten the engagement, we have their trust, we have shown them that we are listening to them non-judgmentally, we are giving affirmations, we are talking with them about all the different steps that we've worked through in this conversation. We've been focusing on what the goal is. We've done some evoking that talked about, their experiences and why they want this change. We've kind of talked to them about the ambivalence and really looking through the plan and the goal they want to work on. Now what? So it's really important to continue to be supportive and to recognize successes every single time. There's got to be something that happened well. One lady that I was coaching came to the coaching session. The first thing she was saying is, oh, you're not going to like this. It didn't go well. So I very politely was like, I'm sure something went well. Can we talk about something that went well this month? And she had several different categories in her spending plan that we were reviewing. And she said, you know what? I stayed within my $10 a month for my G&D, budget line. And it was like, yes, let's celebrate that. And now we later had to move on to things that didn't go so well, but always trying to support and to celebrate things that did go well. So helping them build self-confidence and even asking, in different times that you're working with people, how are you feeling about being able to achieve this? Did you feel, pat yourself on the back. Sometimes I actually would tell people literally, pat yourself on the back for what happened this month that went well. Give yourself some kind of, a bonus, a reward, something that's just like, yes, I did it. So just really trying to work towards that self-confidence. And then helping them continue to monitor their gain, their progress, and to talk about barriers each time, what might get in the way next time, what can we work on to decrease that barrier for you. If there are any local community resources that you may be aware of, you can certainly share those in case you want some different challenges or different resources to be able to work with in the community. And then reminding at some point, if you have a long-term relationship working with people, at some point, some little cha-cha or stumble is going to happen, and trying to reinforce that that's a temporary thing and that it can be viewed as a learning situation rather than failing. Sometimes we have people who work very, very diligently and very hard to amass a very small amount of emergency savings, even $100, and that is just such an exciting and powerful step for people to take. And they'll come back and say, well, I had to get a new tire, that was, $60, and now I don't have all my emergency savings, and I'm feeling really, sad because I just don't have it, now it's gone. So I really try to take that opportunity to say, but it was there, that's what it was for, and you didn't have to put it on a credit card or ask a family member or a friend or not drive the car because you couldn't afford that kind of repair. It was there for that reason. Now, let's go back and see what we can do to help you rebuild that so that you can get comfortable again with having some kind of savings in place. So the kind of stumbles and everything are temporary, and we really want to think about how to use that as a lesson versus a roadblock to moving ahead and as a reason for someone saying, that's it, I can't do it, I can't save it all. So really trying to support and be motivating with someone to help them continue the progress that they are making on the work that they're doing. So I just want to take a minute. If people could maybe put in the chat box, that would be really awesome. If anybody could say one piece of what they learned about the definition of motivational interviewing. Anybody? All right, well, I will just review quickly and make sure that everybody is okay with this. That one piece of motivational interviewing is that it is a style of being with a client versus a counseling technique, and that it is non-confrontational, non-judgmental, research-based, effective method of working with clients to achieve behavior change. So the impact, we talked a little bit about that with some of the research and the different fields that this technique has been used. And the process and skills, we talked about the 4 steps to work on, the engaging, focusing, evoking, and planning. And some of the skills are the open-ended questions, the ability to provide affirmation and support, capacity for reflective listening, and the ability to provide those summary statements to clients. And then some of the questions that we talked about, and we can email more questions if you need more assistance with that. But some of the early on ones, what's been happening since we last met, what would you like to work on, why is this important to you, always using the open-end questions. We talked about this, sometimes as humans we really tend to want to fix people, and while we may in our heads know what we think is a good solution for them, such as for the participant who was eating out, stop going out, start cooking. But to say that to someone is not going to have them actually internally be able to think, that's what I want to do. So using this technique really builds the skills and the confidence of the individual to create their own change versus being told what to do with something that actually won't have impact for them. So using questions like, you say you can't solve this problem, but you've solved others in the past, or what are the first 3 steps to achieve this goal? So that's just kind of some review of what we went over. And I would like to turn it back to Katie for questions.
That's a lot of great. Thank you so much, Sue. That was a lot of wonderful information. We actually do have a few questions if you're actually ready to take those. So one question that came in was, how do we know if motivational interviewing is working with our clients or if we're doing it right?
That's a great question. I'll give you one example, and then we can go through this a little bit deeper. So I had a coach come up to me and say, my coaching client just won't do what I tell them to do. So that was a clear example of not using motivational interviewing and coaching skills and not achieving any kind of change or goal achievement. So telling someone what to do was clearly the key word that told me that we need to do some reframing here and help this coach learn more questions to ask versus telling what to do. So I think some ways to know if it's working is in the very immediate sense, when you're working with someone, if you're talking as much or more than they're talking, we need to reframe. We need to do something different. We need to have them do more of the talking so we are doing more of the listening. And then in a longer term sort of aspect is, are they feeling a little more confident to work on a goal? Are they willing to make that commitment to a behavior change? And long term, have they achieved some behavior change? So one case manager said when she was working with a client and they were reviewing her budget or her spending plan, and she came in, she brought all of her papers, sat down with the case manager, and the case manager said, oh, I see you said you want to have a goal of trying to save at least $20 a month. And she said, yes, I do. I really need to save at least $20. And the case manager said, oh, I see you're spending $100 a month on cigarettes. Well, immediately that client shut down, stiffened up, just physically, just changed complete attitude. And the case manager caught on to that and said, I see that's something that might be important to you. Would you like to take a look at other aspects of your spending plan and see if there's some way to find some savings? And the client immediately, visibly, relaxed, got back engaged with her, started talking with her, and sure enough, they found that she was spending $15 a month on identity theft detection, which she didn't know she had and didn't really want. And then they were able to change her cable bill, and she was actually able to save $25 a month by using these kind of questions and techniques and the non-judgmental and let's leave alone what is clearly a huge money value to you. Not that they didn't come back to it 6 months later when the person was ready, but by having those kind of conversations, they were actually able to achieve the change. Does that help?
Absolutely. I think that's great, and thank you for the example as well. We have another question. So one other person wants to know, is there a way to leverage technology in motivational interviewing?
Oh, I certainly think so. So, I mean, there's ways, and I'm not sure this is exactly what you're getting to, but working either online with participants or just over the phone, or setting up even survey monkeys that you can have people kind of go through beforehand, do some sort of work before getting together. I definitely think there's different areas that you can use to not have to, and I guess maybe the question was kind of getting at the capacity standpoint, do you have to do one-on-one being in person with everybody to make this work? And I don't think so at all. I've done a lot of coaching that's just done over the phone. We've done coaching where we screen share and they're able to see my screen. We happen to use an online financial coaching tool called My Budget Coach, so we can do that online. We've done assessments for people where they, fill in a survey monkey of, what makes you excited about reaching the financial goal, and then we get together and talk. So I think there are different tools that you can create to save both time and make it more convenient for people to participate by using technology.
Great. So speaking of tools, Sue, someone wanted to know where they can get a copy of the Wheel of Life.
Okay. First, easiest one, I can email it to you. Second, you can Google it. Either way, it's out there, and I'm happy to email that out, or if I need to get it to you, try to do an NDI, and you send it out with the webinar, however that is, we can definitely get that out to people.
Great, thank you. So we'll do that.
That's been a very helpful tool in getting people to not only focus on what goal to think about, but also to decide which one to start first and then which one to go from there.
Great. Someone else asked, how did the name Motivational Interviewing come about instead of just calling it financial coaching, and is there a difference between the two methods?
Katie, I think we may have lost Sue on the phone line.
I think you might be right. I was just waiting a minute to see if maybe she got lost, but all right. Well, we can certainly give her maybe a minute to call back in.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, I think we just got her. Yep. Hey, Sue.
Uh-oh.
I'm back.
Hey, Sue, I think, yep, we can hear you now. We lost you for a minute there.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's happening, but I'm back. Sorry. So
no problem.
The question was the difference between motivational interviewing or financial coaching, and I want to be clear that I did not create motivational interviewing. This came from clinical psychologists years ago, and they developed it first as a treatment for those in substance abuse. So that has been around for quite some time, used in different fields. And I would say it really complements the financial coaching skills, and we actually incorporate in our financial coaching training motivational interviewing techniques and these steps. So I would say it really complements and works very closely with slightly different. Motivational interviewing is a technique, a way of being, with people. It can be used without financial coaching. It can be used in different interactions and interventions with people as a standalone. But financial coaching, the ability to work whether one-on-one or in group with people to help them achieve their goals, it is very similar in that, you're again, non-judgmentally, you're supportive, you're listening, you're asking questions. So it is very similar, but they are slightly different and can be used solo or together.
So I think that leads really into the next question we had, which was someone wanted to know, what if the person that you're speaking with doesn't have a good support at home, and how can you help them stay positive?
Sure, yeah, that's very challenging, and we've experienced it many times. And sometimes, first of all, just letting the person know that you believe in them and their ability to achieve this goal goes a long way, because it may have been in the past not a whole lot of people believed in their ability to do different activities with. Just knowing that the person that they're working with, yourself, believes in them. And then trying to see then if there's other strategies for them if the people in their family or their home unit are not going to be supportive of this. Who might be? Are there any other outside friends? Are there groups that you would consider joining? We had group financial coaching where people came together and were very supportive of each other despite not being supported at home. So, some people form money clubs where people come together on a routine basis, or any kind of, networking group. Is there people that are like-minded? Because it's really important to surround yourself or have your client be able to work to surround themselves with people who are going to support them in a positive manner. So trying to find different resources in your community to connect them, whether it's a library, book club, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be in conjunction with the goal they're working on. It's just some way of them meeting other people that will help support them, whether it's faith-based, whether it's physical exercise, whether it's a mental health group, whatever it might be, trying to connect them and to get them to think about, maybe I should go seek out people who will support me versus just allowing the other people in my life to not support me and to kind of get in my way of achieving the things I want to achieve.
Great. Let me ask you, do you have any techniques, Sue? Someone wanted to know how would you suggest measuring behavioral change?
How to mentor behavior change?
Measure, for those who are looking to measure it.
Measure, okay. Another great question, and I think most of us in this field are still working through all of this. So you may have been aware that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has some measurement techniques and standards that they have introduced. The awesome University of Wisconsin Financial Security Center also has, and we've actually been using their measurements. There are 6 questions in our financial coaching program, in my budget coach program. So, in the past, a long time ago, it had been how many people come to class. And now it's like, no, how many people are actually taking action from classes or coaching or doing things. So within our coaching program, we measure things like how much savings has been created, how much debt has been paid down, how confident are people feeling in their ability to meet their financial goals, how many late payments have been paid in the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So there are different measurement metrics that I think many of us have been using, and some of it certainly comes from the funding sources and what it is that they are asking us to measure. But I feel like as a field, we are really starting to come together to find some sort of common metric that we can all use to show that financial education, coaching, counseling, whatever the services that we're providing are really having impact on people, because we see it in our conversations with them, but we have to be able to prove it. So it really is, I think, coming around to doing, again, the common set of metrics, and we've really been focusing more around between the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau measurements and the Center for Financial Security measurements.
Great. I think we have time for just a couple more questions. One that came in is, do you have any suggestions what to do if a client comes back for a second visit and they did not follow through on the next steps that you've identified together in your sessions?
Okay, and the first one is bite your tongue. And the thought that you're thinking is like, come on, why not? But let's not go there. Let's, kind of reframe our face and say, so tell me what happened, what got in the way. And one lady, I can remember her saying, when you're thinking in your mind, oh, you just didn't do any of it, really, not even one step. And then when I was asked her, she was like, well, I got evicted, I had to move, my kid got sick, and just went down this litany of all the things that happened to her in this past month. So, you know, it certainly, you know, made it understandable, and I think it's really important not to pass any judgment on it. At the same time, with trying to be like, so this happened, you know, this month, and you weren't able to take those steps. What do you think will be different next month? What do you need in place to be able to help yourself next month to take these steps that you had identified? So it's also providing that accountability piece of, you said you wanted to do this. What can we help you with to have that done? Is it you need an email from me every Friday to say, be sure to track your expenses, or be sure to be careful this weekend. You mentioned you might be spending money you didn't want to spend, or whatever the message might be. Do you need something else from us, you know, as a coach or counselor? And more importantly, what can you put in place for yourself to make sure that those things can happen for next month?
Great example. Thank you, Sue. And I think you covered some of it just now, but I think this will help give a definition of some of the examples you just gave. The next person asked, what is reflective listening?
What is reflective listening? Oh, good question. So what we often tend to do as humans when we're talking is we're listening but to the person. But then in our head, we're going ahead to where we're going to say next, whether it's just friends, family, you know, clients, whatever. So they say, you know, they're having trouble with this particular part of their finances. In our head, we're going, okay, so what resource can I give to them? You know, what can I help them with? First is really kind of being in the now with them and listening exactly to what they're saying, and then sort of like a mirror or a, you know, pond, sort of reflectively saying that back to them. So I heard you say that it was really important for you to start saving $20 a month. Did I get that right? And so just really making sure that, because sometimes we don't hear it right, and I hear it sometimes in relationships between partners, especially that have to manage finances together, where one is saying one thing another, and they're not really understanding what the other person is saying. So it's really important to make sure that we say to the people we're working with, I heard you say this and this and this and this. Did I get that correct, or is there something else that, you know, I missed?
Great examples. Thank you so much, Sue. We'll take one more question, which you might be able to give us some insight on. Is there a professional development organization to support motivational interviewing?
Is there a professional development?
Professional.
Okay. Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of different organizations that provide coaching skills, that provide financial education skills. I don't think I know of one that focuses specifically in on motivational interviewing. I think they all kind of have pieces of that in the work that they do. There's some school of social work programs that have that in the curriculum that they offer. So I think it's a matter of looking in your community to see whether it's a community college that has it, whether there are other webinars, and or I'm happy to let people know what is in Maryland that has for professional development opportunities.
Great. Thank you so much, Sue. Is there anything you wanted to add to the questions or to the presentation before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just appreciate everybody being with us today, and look forward to being able to further incorporate this skill to help people that we're working with.
Again, thank you, Sue. I think you gave us some really great information, examples, techniques, and we truly appreciate having you on the call today. I want to do a few reminders before we wrap up for good, but I want to also remind everyone that if you do have any questions or would like further information from Sue directly, her contact information is included in the webinar slides, which will be available on our website, realeconomicimpact.org, in the next few days. So you can download both the PowerPoint as well as listen to the recording if you were unable to do so today in full or have additional questions or concerns. Please feel free to reach out to Sue at mdcash.org or give her a call. I also want to remind everyone on the call today to, if you have not already done so, to really work towards helping us achieve our goal and take the pledge at disabledpoverty.org to really disable poverty. It's a grassroots campaign which aims to increase awareness about the nearly 1 in 3 Americans with disabilities that live in poverty and remain outside the economic mainstream, something that I know is probably near and dear to each of your hearts after joining us here today. So I encourage you to take that pledge as well as to encourage others to do so. Also, join the movement. If you're not already part of our Real Economic Impact Network, please sign up to do so. Our sign up is listed here. If you have any questions on strategies on how to build financial wellness inclusive of persons with disabilities, send your questions to ask@ndi-inc.org, and we'll make sure that one of our colleagues gets back to you and really helps you kind of build on that improvement. Again, we want to thank our sponsor, Bank of America, for sponsoring not only the Real Economic Impact Network, but our webinar series such as the one today. I want to remind everyone you have until Friday, September 16th, if you have not already done so, to take the REI Network survey and have your thoughts heard. It will, and the information you provide via the survey will assist us in identifying additional training and technical assistance needs that you and our community might have. Again, I want to thank Sue Rogan for sharing all the important information on today on motivational interviewing with us, and our Bank of America. Forward to having you all join us in our webinar series next month as well. You can find us at Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Flickr, and of course Tumblr, but most importantly on www.realeconomicimpact.org, where you can access today's presentation and PowerPoint and additional information can make disabilities and their family. Joining. Great day.